And then it's Czech Republic, right? Is that what it is?
Actually, right now it's Czechia. They
Czechia?
changed the name again. So Czech Republic, when we split up from Slovakia, it was Czechoslovakia, became Czech Republic and Slovakia. And I guess last year they decided that Czech Republic was just way too long or something, and they changed it to Czechia.
Oh, wow.
So you'll see it on the maps, passports, everywhere. It's
Huh.
just like a transition now.
Well, so for our listeners, you're a photographer. You're a kindred spirit. This is why I wanted to talk to you today. I can't wait to talk shop. And I'm just curious how you got your start in photography. What was that first moment for you?
It's good to be here.
You didn't even know we started.
That's right. It's so good. How did it start for me? Photography, huh?
Yeah.
So I was going to school at MUM. I came from Czech Republic. My whole intention to come here was to study English for 3 months. And I had plane tickets back, but I canceled them to stay in the school because I liked it. And I also had the opportunity to study computer graphics, which was something that was really difficult to do in Czech Republic. So, but as I was taking computer graphics classes, I really got into digital photography. I picked up the first digital camera that was even available,
Oh, cool.
And I started photographing insects on the way to school in the morning. So I would wake up earlier, go into the dew, and discover like this amazing macro world out there, And I got completely excited. So my BFA project was these large prints of insects. Some of them were even backlit. So that kind of really got me excited into photography. Even though my dad was a hobby photographer and I was observing it, I never really got into it until I was in college.
Cool. And then you just went straight for the insects.
Yeah. Somehow that intrigued me, to see something that you cannot see with your eyes, discover that through the lens, like, wow. And then also through the post-processing, for example, doing a multi-layering, you get more detail and more depth and all that. So that was really exciting. An insect is a freaking amazing world out there. They are these alien-looking creatures with these superpowers. They are mimicking each other, and they have these, they can predation, and some of them stink to avoid predators. So, it's just like amazing. Obviously, fireflies, they make their own light,
I was actually thinking about that on the way over here, which is, whereas most photographers rely on like strobe photography or, lighting of you're doing it with fireflies.
Isn't it great? They make their own light. I don't need any additional light.
There is something really magical about macro photography because, like you said, you're seeing things that, you wouldn't have seen otherwise, quite literally. And it's, if you print on large format, that's so cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing. Like you can look really far away into the cosmos and keep discovering things, and then you keep looking deeper and deeper and you keep discovering things. Nature is kind of amazing in that way,
Yeah.
It's like reveals new details the more deeper you look.
The microcosm is the macrocosm and vice versa. It's like the
it's
deeper
like
you
the
go, the
fractal.
more. Yeah, it is. It's a fractal. I actually meant to bring the book. I've got a copy of your one photography book that I thought was so beautiful how you put that together. That nice embossed text on the front. It's glow in the dark. And then however many pictures are in there.
The book has more than 100 pictures, 108 actually.
108.
Photographs.
The sacred
number.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Has 108 pages too.
Now, you can still buy that book, right? Or
yeah, definitely. You can buy it on my website.
Good. And that's the other thing too is, of course, we'll have all those links in the description below, which I highly recommend. Yeah, you also have an interesting story because this is your source of income. You are a self-employed artist. And so many people dream of doing that, but then only few really get to where you are currently. And that it's really inspiring is what it is. But I want to hear, how did you transition from the job that you had into what you're doing now?
Yeah, no, it wasn't easy at all. When I had a job, first of all, I had a great job. I was a nature photographer pretty much, processing nature photographs, doing lots of video, high-tech equipment,
Shooting on those red cameras too,
I was shooting
weren't
on red cameras. At that time, it was almost as much money as my house, I was afraid to drop it always. In fact, we were shooting with cameras before the red cameras with Sony Cine Alta, which were even like $150,000 camera that we would rent,
Yeah.
That was just in HD, But they shot some of the Star Wars on that.
I know, cameras. That's an awesome camera.
Anyway, so I had a great job, and but something was happening. I guess was kind of pushing me to change, and I don't know exactly. It was like meant to be. I was like needed to change, and I was definitely afraid to become an artist. I didn't know what did it mean really to become a full-time artist. Like, how do I make money? Before I was doing web design and graphics, and I could see, somebody pays you to do something, but here, being a full-time artist, it's like you have to create something and then figure out how to sell it. You have to find your clients that would like what you do and what you like. Nobody is giving you a job, say, do it the way I want and I'll pay you for that. Here you are doing something that you like, and then having the God's grace that somebody comes along and is like, I like that, I want to buy that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you more about it.
I'd love to. I mean, to me, there's like no higher honor really than someone says, hey, I'm going to buy that. And it's like, it's art. It's like you were just hanging out or doing what you love. I mean, that to me is just like pure magic. It's like filmmakers, they want to make films and then suddenly they're just doing commercial work. They're just directing commercials. And, it's like the passion that brought us to whatever it was, photography, suddenly turns into, I'm doing wedding photography, or, not that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but finding your own, passion and drive that is creative and fulfilling. I think that's really interesting.
For me, what happened is I have always had this passion for insect. And when I was finishing my BFA project in 2003, I was on an airplane going to photography shoot for my previous company that I worked for, and I was doodling, and this idea came to me to take a picture of a firefly glowing on a blade of grass with the moon behind, kind of dark blue scene with blade of grass, and there it is, little firefly with this glow, this beautiful glow. And I at that time I had no idea how would I do that, because the camera technology wasn't very good, and I knew like to capture that moment, and it's all dark, how would I do that? I thought maybe I have to do it in a studio, but I wasn't quite sure how would I do that. So I waited for 5 years to even like try something, but then the new cameras came out with the low light sensitivity, full frame, Canon 5D.
Yep, that was the camera.
It was kind of a revolution,
Yeah.
It's like 1600 ISO, and it's all usable and creamy and soft background, So I definitely bought the camera right away, and I gave it a try in my yard, and I photographed a couple fireflies, and it was really dark. But I developed it, and I was like, there's detail there, and there's some color. So I got excited because next year they released the 5D Mark II, which doubled, if not tripled, the low light sensitivity. And I was able to take pictures of fireflies. I spent whole summer, even on my birthday night, I went out and photographed fireflies, And then I got some great shots. And I made a gallery show that winter. And one of the photographs, which was this firefly with the dewdrops on the grass next to it, I call it an amber firefly. It has won the Smithsonian photography contest that following year.
That's
with
huge.
huge support from people here in the community in Fairfield. They were like voting for me and all that, and eventually the judges chose it as a first prize in nature category.
That's incredible.
And
I hope we can flash that on the podcast for the curious.
Totally. So, I got really excited about the fireflies, and I had a job. I was doing nature photography and editing at Sky Factory here in town, and the fireflies happened at night, so I was able to do it after job, and I kept doing it for years. But I guess eventually I was getting a little bit tired of the job, or some friction there, and maybe I was inspired to move in a different direction, and I was like, am I gonna go and do web design, or what am I gonna do? But this calling of bringing the fireflies to the world in a bigger, more meaningful way was probably calling me. And so what happened is I talked to a really great friend, artist called Marty Hulsebos.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a full-time artist at the time as a photographer. And he inspired me, and he kind of mentored me, tutored me through the process of how to get the artwork out to people. And the primary vehicle that he was doing it was the art shows. And so I was like, okay, he told me about the finances and, how much he was making per show. And I was getting excited about it. And I was like, if he can do that, I can do it. I have some really unique photography, firefly photography. Haven't seen anything like that before, so I should do well. So what I did is I seek inspiration if I should be doing this. I actually went to Amma, and I asked her, hey, is this a good time to take on this project, this business? Should I quit my job?
She's like, yep.
And she's like, well, this is what you can do. No, this is what you do. First, make it profitable, and then go and make your business. Don't be, she didn't say that, but I feel like don't be in this position where you have a family, but you don't know how you are providing money. Yeah. So first, create money with this project, and then move and make it a business.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's a good suggestion, right? And that weekend that I talked to Amma, right? She's the saint, right? That weekend that I didn't even have a cell phone reception when I was at the retreat, I've received 2 jobs one was from Travel Channel and one was from CBS.
Whoa. Yeah.
So money suddenly came in, it became profitable, but then I was like, well, that's not sustainable. I have to figure out how I can make this. So in the winter, I went to an art show. I bought my first setup with walls, some large artwork.
Oh.
And
shoot, I don't mean to interrupt you, but one of the cameras just went out. Just have to be mindful of that one
so
camera.
Do you know how long ago did it stop? You're recording audio here.
I saw it the second it stopped, and I called it the second.
Okay.
Yeah, I really didn't mean to interrupt your incredible story. As we were just talking, the cameras overheat sometimes, and that was the first on the show we've had to deal with that. But you're a camera guy, you understand.
Yeah. I'll reverse a little bit back.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went to Amma, right? She said, if you can make this profitable, do. That weekend, I have received a couple jobs. If I do an art show and prove that I can make money, great. So I bought my wall setup, lights, I went all big on getting professional stuff. I got a really big print of one of my photographs that I got in the Smoky Mountains of the fireflies flashing in the woods. I printed on metal. It was really expensive to buy, that metal print.
Yeah.
But that show, I sold that print.
Wow.
And that money, I could pay, it was a great paycheck,
Yeah.
for one piece of art. And I was like, great. You know, I made some money. So I knew that I can be profitable. And that's gave me the confidence to say, okay, you know, I can let go of the job and go to the unknown, you know, and jump off and hope that the support net is there.
That's fantastic.
And you know, the first half a year was challenging because some of the shows I wasn't doing as good as the one that I did in winter. Suddenly I did half of the money. You know, I was like calculating, if I make this much money for a show, and if I make this many shows, I can make a living, right? And then suddenly some shows I made half of it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
it's
oops.
like,
I'll have
variance.
to, am I gonna like work double now? And that's not gonna work, right?
Yeah.
But eventually next year I got accepted to some of the best shows in the country, and the profits were multiple times of the shows I did in winter.
That's
and
incredible.
Within a year I was making more money than I was doing at my job before.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's no better time to hear that than now, because people, I mean, we were just talking off camera how there's this incredible opportunity to change, that, you know, life is getting pushed in a new direction. A lot of people are finding extra time on their hands, thinking like, gosh, maybe I could pick up a camera. Like, you're actually making that seem a little bit more palpable to maybe a budding photographer out there. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. So right now, I really don't have an art show. So
Yeah.
my art shows are my bread and butter. I make 90% of my income comes from traveling the country to different cities and displaying my art, my Firefly photography outdoor in my tent, you know, for the weekends. I mean, I could travel to Denver or Ann Arbor or down in Dallas or Houston. You could have a couple 100,000 people to come to these shows, and I will have so many people see my art and lots of them buy it, you know. So right now I don't have that.
Yeah.
Luckily, I kept my email list.
Mm.
You know, I collect people's emails at the shows, so I have a good database of people that I can reach to. That has helped right now. Online sales have increased a little bit because people are more at home and they shop more online, you know. But honestly, I haven't been making enough money just online. The art shows are really 90% of my income, and that's really missing. And we don't know if we are going to see them this year at all. So
Yeah.
it has been challenging that way. I'm getting some of the unemployment money and hopefully PPP, and I got some, you know, forgivable loan from Small Business Administration.
I mean, that's making a huge difference right now. It really is. And hopefully, I mean, gosh, we all just want to go back to normal here, but as soon as possible. I actually heard that Governor Reynolds, she's opening up schools. So come fall, I think she's making it mandatory. 50% of your learning has to be in classroom. So probably half the people who just heard that hate me, and the other half think that's fantastic.
Right. It's these times, but I wouldn't want to be politician. Whatever you say, but half people love it and half people hate it. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, something that came to mind, you were talking about, you know, how would you get these fireflies at night? And it's funny, I think, for a lot of people who see your photography, they think like, oh, it makes sense, right? I can see everything in the photo. That must have been what it was like. But you're taking like really long exposures, aren't you? Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with that if you're in pure darkness?
I have two types of firefly photography.
Okay.
I have the macro,
yeah,
which is kind of my specialty. You
cool.
know, that's my vision started with that. I've spent lots of time doing that, and lots of other people don't do that or cannot do that or don't have the patience to do that, maybe, you know. So that's one type, and that happens really just when there is enough light with the macro. I have to see the firefly, focus on it, and then be lucky enough to press the shutter as it blinks. I tried different techniques, but really that's the technique, waiting for it to blink and then press the shutter and get lucky. So there's a lots of patience that goes into it. And then I do some post-processing to brighten it up a little bit, clean up the noise and all that. When it comes to the landscapes, now that's a completely different animal. I need, on the other hand, completely dark scene. If it's too bright, let's say moonlight scene or if it's just under the stars, it could be too bright. So often I go into the woods and wait until it's dark enough where I can do a long exposures. And so I have a wide open lens, and my exposures could be 30 seconds, but it could be several minutes.
Wow.
Right? I have done exposures even 12 minutes, single exposure. Now, sometimes if I know that it's too dark, if I'm in the woods, there is no sky openings, and I know when the fireflies come out, it's going to be pitch black, what I can do is a multiple exposure. And so what it means is I take a first frame of the photograph is before it gets completely dark. So let's say the twilight. I expose the land without the fireflies because they haven't come out yet. I know they'll be coming in 15, 20 minutes, right? When it gets pitch black and the fireflies come out, I start taking pictures of the fireflies, but I'm not worrying about exposing it for the background. I'm worrying only of exposing it properly for the fireflies. So I spend, let's say 30-second exposures, and I turn it on and I check my exposures and make sure that the fireflies look nice and yellow or green or whatever the color is, that they don't overexpose or underexpose. I take multiple pictures. I can spend a whole night doing that if I want. I can increase the number of fireflies in the photograph the longer I expose or more exposures I do. And let's say I get 20 exposures of the fireflies, and then I layer them on top of each other and merge them so you can only see the fireflies onto the background, which was the first shot.
It's incredible. And what you're doing, I mean, you're like condensing time. Like,
exactly.
Like one of your still captures, there's hardly anything still about it. It's almost like you're looking at a movie of like the whole night. That's super cool. Yeah, I like for myself. I'm mainly into like street photography, which is again like a different animal unto itself also. But I was shooting on mainly film cameras, and the more broken and sort of dinged up they were, the better, because I liked those accidental light leaks. And I just think it's so cool because, like you said, you're doing landscape and insect macro stuff, and I don't usually grab my camera to shoot that, so I like hearing the process. Do you sometimes just go out like all night and then you'll take like long exposure after long exposure?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I always try to do the long exposure first, because there's something a little bit more magical about it when 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes later, you look in the camera, it's like, wow, there's the photograph.
You press the button and then you're just like,
you wait.
And then like 10 minutes later, you hear
and it's like, wow, did I get it? Did I not? But it's kind of a similar with even with the process. The thing is, when I take many, many pictures of fireflies, I have a little bit more of a creative process, which frames to choose and which not, So, but if it's a single exposure, you kind of let go, and you have to, whatever happens in that time, So it's a little bit more of a surprise, kind of like the dark room surprise. You're waiting for it to develop,
That's right.
But the other day I spent on a full moon. It's so bright that my exposures were only 2 seconds long. Of the fireflies. So I took like 1,000 pictures of the fireflies. And then when I merged it all together, I was like, wow, that looks great. So sometimes nature has to cooperate too, and the fireflies have to cooperate and show up in the right places.
Yeah.
That sometimes can ruin photograph for me. It's like I can spend whole night photographing fireflies, but they don't line up in the right places to make the right composition. They don't come in close enough to the camera to become larger, or can make the photograph not so interesting. Yeah,
everything just has to line up. Sometimes you see someone captured like the lightning bolt, and it was right when the rainbow came out of, it's just like, okay, that's amazing. You feel like you just won the lottery or something.
And I think it's important for people to always disclose how they arrive to the photograph. Because if you have a lightning bolt in a perfect spot and a rainbow, if you know that it took 3 hours and multiple exposures, at least you know how they got there. It's still amazing.
Yeah.
But if it's a single shot, it's kind of more valuable in some ways.
Yeah.
So I always try to disclose not like all my secrets, but at least like, this happened on a multiple exposure so people can get an idea how it happened.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because there's such a spectrum in the photography world and just little sleights of hand. I mean, nowadays, people with apps on their phone, they're slimming their face down. They're suddenly, they just consolidated like 2 hours of Photoshop on their iPhone, and suddenly they're just cranking it out. And what's even more is like you can replace the sky.
Right.
And to me, I mean, I don't like it personally, but I'm not going to make it wrong. But if you're out there doing the art of the photography, something feels a little cheap about the software on your phone that would get you there. But I think being transparent in the discovery process is so valuable, because ultimately what you're taking photos of, it's like what you love. For you, it's going out into the woods, finding a cool spot. But ultimately, it's like the process of doing it. I think that's probably most gratifying to the photographer. I mean, if you can't enjoy the process, then you're not going to do it. Do you have, I'm sure you do, like those bucket list shots? Like you said, your inspiration to get that one blade of grass. Do you have some other things on your list? You probably don't want to tell them on the podcast.
Well, no, it's fine, but it's getting narrower in terms of my like photography and Fireflies. I have done lots of cool things.
Yeah.
I had some bucket lists, and I would say the list is getting a little shorter when it comes to Firefly photography. I have always had a dream to go to Asia to photograph, and I did that.
Oh, cool.
I wanted to photograph the giant fireflies. They're this big, female.
Wow. Are they really that big?
Well, they don't fly. They look like glowworms, but they are a firefly species. I saw them in Malaysia. Okay,
oh my gosh.
So that was really cool. So I still have things on my bucket list. And some of it is more of projects. I want to do a documentary about fireflies.
That would be awesome.
It's definitely brewing. I mean, there has been
oh my god
companies doing different things, but it's like I need to figure it out. I'm not a filmmaker per se. I do record lots of movies with fireflies, but I don't. It's like creating a story and maybe even a team of people to help with that. It's something that I want to discover. That. So I have like bucket lists like that. One of my bucket lists was to go to the Smoky Mountains and photograph fireflies there. And that happened really quick. And I have been going back every year. They have the synchronous fireflies. It's a different species, and they blink all together at the same time.
Do they really?
Yeah, and the males and females take turns. So there's these pauses where for a few seconds, the woods go completely dark, and then the fireflies start again and synchronize. It's really amazing.
Wow, that is cool. Now, are you team Canon or are you team Sony?
So here's what happened.
Nikon?
So you heard me speak about the 5D, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's a Canon. So I started with a Canon. Canon was the one that brought the high definition video to the DSLR, right? The mirror flips up and suddenly it's recording video, and you have the cinematic look, right? You have a beautiful colors and bokeh, you have the soft backgrounds. It looks better than movies, right? Everybody has it on their cameras, and it's like amazing.
Yeah.
But that was barely HD, right? It was HD, but it was really kind of a lower resolution. So what happened is when Canon started making new models, they kept the resolution of the video same, where competitors were increasing their video resolution. And then recently, Sony especially came with their beautiful, clean 4K videos on a DSLR mirrorless. And Canon couldn't do that. They saved it for their professional line, big, bulky, either video cameras or the C-series. All the other ones had a crop sensor.
Yeah.
And for me as a photographer, I couldn't live with that. I'm going to spend half an hour looking for a perfect shot, perfect composition, right? And I want to take a picture. And then I want to turn on the video.
Yeah.
Well, what happens if you crop it to 1.6? You crop it to this small area. I don't care it's 4K. It's a small area.
Yeah.
Which doesn't match the original resolution. And sometimes I want to even blend videos and photos together. So I couldn't really... I was disappointed.
Yeah.
And then Sony came out with this ultra low light camera called the S. A7S. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the game changer for low light. Kind of like 5D and 5D Mark II, where, almost a decade ago, Sony A7S was the video low light pioneer. Already 6 years ago. I got my first camera when they came out. Same thing.
That got you to switch to Sony.
That got me switched to Sony.
Wow,
And now
cool.
I have their own, the resolution camera. And it's kind of it's a pity because I love the colors of Canon.
Me too. Yeah.
But the Sony is just like a powerful computer that can crank out the numbers.
Seriously. Well, I'm shooting on the A6400s from Sony, and they have that crop sensor. So, like, I still do a lot of photography on these cameras, but I got them mainly for the video. Yeah, I still miss the colors of a good Canon camera. Did you hear about this? Canon just released this R5. Did you?
Yeah.
It shoots 8K. Can you believe that?
I know it is definitely. I was looking at it. It was like, ooh. It's not gonna be probably as great in low light.
Yeah.
But I got excited. It was 4K without being cropped, and 4K even at a high frame rate, I think. So that was pretty interesting.
Pretty wild.
That gets we get technical here.
Yeah, we get so technical.
But it's in terms of, we were talking about the process of what you love. And you said, well, you have to love what you are doing to keep doing it, right? That's an interesting subject. So for me, of course, it became love for nature, fireflies, insects, wanting to do more of that. But then sharing it with people is actually another part of the loving cycle. So when you bring out what you love and you show it to people and they love it, and they give you that feedback, whether they buy it or not, they just give you a feedback how much they love it. And that becomes fulfilling too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what has been happening to me as a full-time artist, is that I go out there and I'm showing people my photos and most of them love it. There may be somebody that may be a little critical or something, but 99% of people are, wow, I love it. And
it's like you get to see it all over again, your work.
Yeah, and then I get to share my stories behind it, and people really connect with that. That's one of the reasons why the art shows are much better vehicle for selling, for marketing, because in a gallery, you don't get to be there yourself. Somebody is representing you. The art, of course, is the same, but the story behind and the energy of the artist, the galleries don't have that. And then galleries on top of that, they have their cut, 50% or something. So art shows have become better way to make money. There are some people that make money with galleries, especially like painters, You can mark it up for the gallery. You make a one-of-a-kind painting, and is it 5,000 or is it 10,000?
Hopefully 10,000.
Yeah, if it's in a gallery, then it's 10,000. So, but for photographers, I think it's a little more challenging. Although there are photographers that manage to do it with galleries.
Yeah, I feel like the margins for success as a photographer are getting narrower and narrower with like the advent of smartphones even. That every second, like 1 billion, trillion photos are getting taken,
And where's the difference between work of art and a snapshot with a phone?
It's interesting. Well, what do you think?
I think it's the intention behind it a little bit, Phones produce photographs which are awesome, probably better than the digital camera I started with.
Yeah.
Right. But then, if you make a big reproduction or any kind of reproduction and you put the time and to put it on the wall, that's another layer. You don't just see it on the screen as a artwork. But
yeah, I don't know. And I don't mean to like rag on phones because I love it, and sometimes that's the only camera I've got in my pocket. I'm just grateful that I was able to take the shot when I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. But I just think it's so readily available as a telephone and a way to talk to your friends that I don't always regard it like the camera that I know and love. I'm sure everyone's different.
I guess you can get pretty technical about phone cameras too if you really want to.
They're getting incredible. And now the software that allows for the bokeh in the background, this portrait mode is incredible. My girlfriend was taking photos the other day, and I was just like, you don't even need a 50 millimeter lens. Like you just blew my camera out of the water. Like, yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
It's incredible.
And
it works.
Because there's lots of developing money in it. Everybody has a cell phone, so there is a push to do it better and better, and there is the money in it in the development. The DSLR companies are struggling.
Yeah.
Sony is different, but Canon and Nikon, their DSLR sales are plummeting because people have phones, or smaller cameras, but mostly the phones,
Yeah.
It can be lots of fun. I think it's completely amazing and amusing how the phones take photos. Very soon they'll be like low light. I mean, you can take pictures of stars with the cell phones now, and it's like,
yeah.
But where is this all going to?
Hmm.
If you think within 10 years, it went from really crappy pictures now to this, you can take 3D pictures, you can take 360 pictures, you can do 4K videos on your phone. What's the 10 years from now? What's the 100 years from now? What's the 1,000 years from now? And what's the path? And I always kind of like to think about that.
Yeah, I like to think about that too. Do you think it's going to put us artists out of a job?
No, I don't think so. Because there is always draw to beauty and expression. I think artists just need to adapt themselves to the environment. Maybe you're not going to be showing pictures at a gallery. Maybe it's going to be in virtual reality, some artist expression, I don't know. I think artists will always have a space, whether everybody becomes an artist in some ways, which that's becoming more and more so.
Yeah.
But there will be always some artists that are gonna take a different perspective and show something new and different and put lots of time and dedication to come up with something that is amazing and spectacular and different and eye-opening, maybe emotion evoking. There will always be that. And I think the medias allow you to get deeper into, like video can convey a little bit more of an emotion than a photograph. Oh, it's certainly different.
Potentially.
Yeah. It's different, right?
Yeah.
With music and sequence. Well, we will have different ways of creating art, virtual reality. I mean, what is the potential there, interactive art, I mean, I am completely amazed. The latest, video games in virtual reality. I mean, it's like, whoa, it's becoming pretty real.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I definitely agree with everything you're saying. To me, it seems like technology has this, like it's a double-edged sword. It's like I take phones, for example. It's like you can use it to do art things and self-expression. You can also use it to never get off the couch. So it's like this balancing act, And I don't know. Yeah, I think about the future too, and I just wonder if we're in that virtual reality, do we even need other human beings anymore? I hope we do. I hope we still have friends and a community, and we're still eating fruit that we buy at the grocery store. But I don't know. I'm just me old fat.
Comes in a pipe, to your house. Like there's your meal. You specify the flavors online, and
yeah,
boop, comes with your meal.
Well, it's like in Star Trek. Did you ever watch that show where they have the what do they call it? It's like a microwave, but it'll just create whatever you want, in terms of a food or beverage.
Yeah, because like my family is in Czech Republic, I was joking with my wife. Well, my mom is gonna create a flavor, and it's gonna be a computer code, and you send it over, and the other person will be able to reproduce it, and you cook something with exactly same flavor. And I guess in a lab, when they make candies and whatever chemicals, you can already do that. But like in the future, you can probably put a texture to it.
You're gonna be able to email it. Yeah.
You'll be able to
attach smell.
Made you a dinner.
I don't know why that's.
I have a 20 years ago, when I was a teenager, I had this vision about virtual reality. I was really getting into it. It was kind of the first wave of virtual reality. And I'm total believer into if this is as we are going into the future, if this is what's happening, we are creating more and more realistic captures of what we see. Like we almost are trying to reproduce reality, but in a different way, like in a twist, like better, more beautiful, less pain or something.
With a little editing, just to sprinkle,
a little editing.
Make me look better.
Right. So I thought, we are gonna arrive to a stage where me and you will be sitting across in a room in a virtual reality.
Yeah, well, you see that kind of happening already with Zoom, a little bit.
Right.
Are you doing a lot of Zoom calls these days?
Some. My son was doing a lot with school and all that with friends. I haven't done that much of it.
Yeah, I haven't been doing it either. It still trips me out. I actually had like one job interview, and also like on this podcast I've done 2 episodes now that are via Zoom, and then we'll be recording separate angles, but there's like a 1 second delay, maybe 2 second delay on the it's like actually it really makes a difference when I'm trying to video edit, because their responses just aren't like across the way. So I hope that gets better, but we'll see.
Anyway, Zoom is great, and if you think that technology extrapolated 50 years from now, 20, 30, whatever, 100 artificial intelligence with the what could be happening is that the humans, we are humans, we know how we
humans.
Look. Imagine the artificial intelligence is going to create a perfect looking human in a virtual reality. Yeah. I think that's where we are heading. That's going to be like, we want to see ourselves somehow, but at the same time it's gonna be a computer behind. Isn't that strange?
This deep fake stuff is getting weirder and weirder. You know about that?
Yeah.
That like world leaders could be saying something that they didn't say, and boom, press the little button and they just shot a nuclear bomb, off into the. Yeah, it's pretty weird.
It is weird. Well, what I had the message when I was younger is, if you encounter another human being in a virtual reality, you have to look deep into their eyes, because that's where you see the soul. Yeah. If it's a CG, if it's a artificial intelligence, it's not gonna be there.
That's interesting actually, because maybe AI will get to a point where
it's heading.
Yeah. It's going to pass the test, and you know what? It's going to start getting like human rights and stuff, because you can hurt its feelings and it can pull a gun on you. That'll be a trip.
It's interesting. One of the things that I made a decision when this coronavirus started out, I looked at the news and I saw it was so distorted. It was so skewed. They were just scaring people, and I was like, I don't need this. I turned the TV off. I don't have a TV, but I stopped watching all the news. I was like, I don't need this. Partly I cut off myself from, some of the world. I still go to Facebook to get some of the news, you know. But so politics has been kind of going by. And then, the presidential race and all that, it's like, well, I get bits, but what kind of bits are those anyways?
It's a really good point.
Yeah. So that's why I'm not really up to all the presidential happenings and all that and all the news.
That's good.
I've been just going into the nature. This is the Firefly season, so I'm out every night photographing fireflies, shooting videos. BBC contacted me to do some shooting for them of fireflies, because they cannot go out. They cannot come from UK to US to shoot because of the travel restrictions and all that. So they're like, oh, why don't we
Oh, that's an
Check with
awesome
Radim.
gig.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been working with many TV channels and all that, and
Oh, good for you.
magazines and National Geographic and you name it. Hmm.
That's so cool. Yeah, you got to get this documentary thing going. I mean, to say that you're not a video guy, I don't know if I believe you. 'Cause, I mean,
I'm a video guy, but I don't have experience in writing script
like
and
crafting
making.
this.
Yeah, it's like I have a really good sense of visuals and maybe the flow of it, but that's kind of my expertise, and I'm really good at getting technical about video and getting the bits done and the frame rates and kind of I had to learn that in my previous job. But
Yeah.
like in terms of getting a story and narration and all that, it's a challenge, something that I want to learn. And
Yeah. Well, I would also just challenge you too that the story is you. The story is what you're doing, I would think. But just as an onlooker, I'd like to see you do what you do. It'd be really cool. Like, not only set up the camera you're going to take stills with, but maybe set up the other camera where you're telling people how, without giving away too much.
So actually right
trade.
now I have this summer I've been working with the MUM art department, with the film department, and they have been shooting a short
Oh, really?
promo about me. So, and then
Nice.
it may happen to be a short documentary too, eventually.
Wait, for the art department. Who's
The film department. So
oh, cool. Like with Amin.
Amin is the head of the department.
Nice.
And
Shout
then-
out Amin.
Yeah, and then Abdul was the main filmmaker, but we had Nina come in and Amin to do some filming too in the
Oh.
field. We had this amazing field that we found with flowers that suddenly bloomed out, and fireflies. So we were there recording, and it should be done soon.
That's awesome.
So that, yeah, people tell me I should tell my story on a video. My wife told me for sure. So that's going to happen in terms of short one. But in a long one, maybe. But I do want to continue sharing the beauty of fireflies. That kind of what motivates me. It's more than, I don't want to talk too much about myself, but the fireflies and their beauty. And that's kind of my art. I'm sharing that with people. And there is something spiritual and magical to share. And perhaps I can do it in a video. I thought maybe I need to do a video documentary like everybody else. Firefly, it's a beetle and not a fly. And then get down to the technical things. But I think I could create a movie that would be a little bit more touching or a little more
Transcendent is a word that, yeah.
Transcendent, or just to show that inner beauty and the connection that people have with fireflies from their childhood memories. I don't know if you catch fireflies when you were a kid.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
See, lots of people have that memory of that joy and that wonder from childhood, and they kind of lost it. So bringing that back in a film, I've done that with a short film. But it was just with a music. But here I could have some stories with it.
I think someone told me that fireflies are actually not doing so well right now. Is that true?
Yeah, so fireflies are kind of like the canary of the coal mine for the insects. So if you have a troubling landscape environment, it shows on the fireflies. I don't think we have seen, like right now, if you go out into the country, you will not see that many fireflies in general because there is a lots of fields. And in fields, the farmers use lots of chemicals. They till the soil. Firefly larvae, they have to hibernate in the soil and then they lay their eggs and all that. So if you are in the wrong life cycle and you till it up, you could be damaging their life. And then the chemicals, and maybe even the moisture is not quite there like they need. So even here in Iowa, you can see huge difference from what it probably was more than 100 years ago.
Wow.
But more troubling, in my opinion, is large developments like big cities, because there's so much concrete and so much light pollution, which affects their mating, when they cannot see each other at night blinking. Too much LEDs, that's affecting them. Too much concrete, in general. They don't migrate. It's not like they're gonna move somewhere. If you put a parking lot, streets, buildings, you remove their habitat. And then especially down south and in big cities, they spray mosquitoes really heavily. What I was told by scientists, that there are different levels of the chemicals, different grades of chemicals that you can spray mosquitoes with. And some of them will not damage any other bugs or beetles or that in the ecosystem. But some of them are very aggressive because the population of the mosquitoes could be really bad and they could have diseases. So they have to spray it more heavily with more aggressive chemicals, and that can actually kill other insects. So fireflies have been very declining very heavily in South Florida, those states that have those tropical diseases that mosquitoes carry.
What about here in like the Midwest and Iowa? Have you seen the numbers kind of decrease?
Like I said, because of the agriculture. So I haven't seen it, like if I go to the parks, I haven't seen really decline there.
Yeah.
But in Fairfield, for example, I have been photographing in several favorite spots for 12 years now. Well, almost all of those spots have been influenced by human development.
Really?
So down in Lansom Woods right now, they completely bulldozer it. There is the whole marshes are out because of the pipeline. On the streets where I photograph, because fireflies like to be by the sides of the roads and the ditches, maybe because it's moist there and nobody mows it there. We have a new railings with concrete. We have a park has installed these blinking lights at night. People are putting lights on their houses that are much brighter than they used to be, and they are LED daylight, which disrupt the life cycles of the firefly even more. If people are gonna install lights, please do as least as possible. You don't need to create illuminated castles. Keep it more environmental friendly for the fireflies and the nightlife. And also point the lights down. Lots of street lights have learned to do that. They have a shield on the top, so it's shining only down, and it's not doing light pollution. So light pollution where you cannot see the stars and all that. If the street lights point directly down and have a little shield on top, that really helps. And then the night light doesn't get affected much by the yellow-orange lights, which more mimic the sunset. If it's a cool white daylight, that's disrupting the nightlife even more. And not just fireflies, but animals, everything. Yeah.
We're looking at screens late into the night, and that's blue light, whatever, and that disrupts our patterns. So it only makes sense that this is happening for insects as well. But when you said fireflies are the canary in the coal mine, so they're like our early predictors of the impacts of agriculture and climate and so on.
Well, I think, hey, we figure out how to make rockets that can go to another planets. We figured out how to make electric cars and supercomputers that are in our pockets. Maybe we can come up with different ways to deal with agriculture, with light pollution, with even with buildup, in the cities. Maybe it could be more parks, down south. I mean, can we come up with a system that is not killing the whole environment just to control the mosquitoes? I mean, if we can come up with a rocket, I think we can come up with some solution for this. I don't know. I would like to know, if the scientists I don't know, maybe we can put more resources to figuring it out, because it's not just the fireflies and the mosquitoes, then you don't have the bats, the toads. You just kind of are killing lots of the environment. And we are doing the same thing in the oceans. We have 70 or 80% of the coral in the whole world is gone. And it's only going in one direction.
That's so sad. Yeah.
It is extremely sad. It's so beautiful. And I want my son, when he grows up, to go scuba diving and say, wow, this is so beautiful. He's going to go there and it looks like a cemetery, it looks dead. And that's super sad. I hope we wake up and we do something. And I hope with my photography, I bring people back the joy of fireflies and the wonder and the beauty in nature. Like maybe people can can think more about nature and see that we are part of it, and there is a cultural value, art value, but also there is more than that. It's part of us.
Yeah.
It's part of us. If we kill something, it's killing part of us, really, and that doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't.
Lots of people don't feel good, and some people kind of feel numb maybe to it, but I think to one level or another, we are all affected by that. And everybody can start from their own spot, but I think inspiring others is part of the equation.
Absolutely. I am curious, you mentioned scuba diving. Is that something that you do, and do you do underwater photography?
So I have gotten my certification.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. One of the reasons for that was because I wanted to go filming underwater for Sky Factory. It didn't happen. We end up going into aquariums and shooting them from the outside. But since then I got my certification. I haven't done much underwater photography.
I haven't either, so I was just curious.
I haven't done much of a scuba diving either, because living in Iowa, and then when you travel and then it's $100 pop, and you have to you have to rent all the gear, and it takes some dedication. But I love it, and as much I love snorkeling too, I would like to do filming now that more than 80% of the bioluminescent creatures are underwater.
Oh.
And so much of it is even undiscovered that I want to do some night dives and maybe record some of that.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So
night dives, that would freak me out.
I hear it's completely freaky.
But you're excited. You want to do it.
I want to do it, as long as I'm with somebody that can be a good instructor. And, I heard that if you use a flashlight and you shine around and there's different kinds of fish, each of them is going to have a different color of their eyes that reflect back.
Really?
Red, blue, orange, yellow. It's like, ooh.
That would be awesome.
So that's on my bucket list.
Okay.
Definitely doing a night dive with lots of bioluminescence.
Wow.
I have another bucket list. In Asia, there is there's the plankton that glows, and there are rivers that it grows, and then you can go on a river and you see fireflies, the stars, and then the glowing river. I think that's going to be really cool.
Sorry, what part of Asia again?
Southeast Asia.
Southeast Asia.
So Southeast Asia hasn't been much affected, most of it by agriculture and all that, like here, or they don't have as much development, although there are definitely parts that have been affected, but there's lots of fireflies. It's a tropical, warm, humid, which that's what fireflies need. There's lots of fireflies there.
Cool.
And we probably used to have lots of fireflies in Florida, but you see very few now. I have to tell people there is one park you go where they don't spray the mosquitoes and you can see fireflies there.
Yeah, so much spraying. My house just had carpenter bees or whatever. I had no idea what these things were, but they look like a bumblebee actually. But they will bore holes in your wood, like 3/8 to a quarter or half inch hole, so it was funny because I kept getting like sawdust on my porch, and I was like, oh, what is that? I actually hear like drilling, and I was like looking around, I was like, what the hell is that? Carpenter bees, dude. And apparently they go up and then they go over and then they like create a little nest, but I couldn't believe it. So I hate to admit, I had to spray. I didn't know what to do because they were literally chewing my house down.
No, I know. But people can be very ingenious.
I know.
Like I heard these stories where there is a mycelium or mushrooms that are being used to help or control insects. And I think they use some of it to get rid of ants. So there's it's this crazy thing. You gotta look it up, okay?
Okay.
If you have a problem with ants, you can fumigate them or something. Or you can use a fungus that's gonna kill them all. But the ants are really smart, and they have like guards that if they see ant that is infected, that they're gonna actually
They get ostracized from the group.
kill it, and then they commit suicide.
What?
So they don't infect the
Oh my
the nest.
God.
And Paul Stimmons is the guy that's talking about this. So he came up with a different strand of mycelium that will do the same thing but bypass the guards.
And that's just something you can introduce natural.
Yeah, so I mean there are what I'm saying is that there are different ways. There are so many different ways we can kind of control the natural world a little bit, because sometimes we have to, but it can be less invasive. You know, I don't know, carpenter bees. I mean, I don't know, but there may be.
I have no idea. I
there
know.
may be.
I felt bad.
You know, this is the chemical revolution. You know, and we are digging things out and bringing them out, and it's making a
Pull that up.
It's making a big mess. Well, we are gonna arrive to a stage where we probably have to think a little harder what we can do.
I hope so. Let's make the world a better place for everyone. Ants,
Fireflies, whatever. Yeah.
Maybe not the ants.
No, ants are awesome. All the natural world is awesome. You know, I used to have a huge fear of snakes. I was afraid, and I didn't have that connection. But then I started to challenge myself. I wanted to travel to tropics and photograph and all that, but I was afraid to do that. So I said one day, that's enough. I'm going to deal with my fear, because other people don't have the same fear, or they deal with it in a different way. You know, they are not paralyzed like me, just walking in the grass in the middle of the day in Iowa, you know. So I learned more about snakes, and I started petting some snakes. I went to the petting zoo, or you know, the shop with pets, you know, Petco or something. I went there and I asked them, hey, I want the most calmest snake that you have that I can carry, you know, and hold it. And he was like, yeah, try this one. Like, are you sure it's not gonna bite me? It's like, yeah. So I was like, oh, this is not so bad, you know. And nowadays I'm catching my own snakes, and I kind of evolved from that.
Did you really? Wow.
Yeah. And so I still have a fear of snakes, but it's not paralyzing me. And in the middle of the night, in the Smoky Mountains, when there's rattlesnakes and things, I walk at night without flashlight, you know, because I don't want to change my night vision with a light, and I don't want to affect the fireflies. So I slowly walk around, even in the woods. And here in Iowa, in Fairfield, I learned that we don't have any venomous snakes. So I just walk through the grass now. It's part of it is a knowledge.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, so yeah, overcoming that fear, at least to some degree, you're saying you learned more about the snake. And
absolutely. And then I admire, they are not slimy. They are actually dry, and they feel really good. They're really smart. Their senses, and it's like incredible.
Well, now have you encountered poisonous snakes in the tropics or anything like that?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the yellow eyelashed viper.
Whoa.
And I haven't seen that many actually. Cannot recall any other. I have seen last year. I was in Thailand, and I was photographing at a property of my friend, and she has a pond right, pretty much inside Bangkok, like on the suburbs. And I was photographing fireflies through a shrub or kind of a little branches or something. And as I was photographing the fireflies, I suddenly noticed that it's moving. The tree was moving.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what's that? So I checked it with a flashlight, and there is this python. He was like, I don't know, maybe 6 foot long. He was on the branches, and he was just moving around, and I got so excited. It's like, I'm gonna be recording python and fireflies in one video, picture, whatever.
I didn't know you went to Thailand.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've been traveling quite a bit. And then what happened was even crazier, almost crazier. I usually run 2 cameras at the same time, taking long exposures. So I set up one, and then I go and set up the other one and all that. So I maximize my efforts. I'm not waiting around one camera the whole time if it's taking pictures the whole night long. I got so excited that I was paying attention to the snake a lot to set up the shot and all that, and I forgot about the other camera. And I ran to get the other camera, but I was perched up here right on top of the pond, which was where the snake was on top of it on the branches. And my camera was like set up like kind of almost leaning. And I forgot that my remote control was on a cable. And as I ran, I pulled the whole camera into the water under the python. And when I realized what happened, is like I took the flashlight, checked the snake, if he's still there. He was there. I jumped into the pond, pulled my camera.
Oh my gosh.
Camera survived. The $1,500 lens didn't.
Oh,
but
sad.
It's a story.
It's a story. Now you get to, you got to immortalize it on this podcast.
And I got the picture, so.
That's fantastic. Oh, I'd like to see that one sometime.
It's on my website. If you type in Python Thailand, I think it comes up.
That's great. Are you active on Instagram too? Do I see you on there?
So recently I started to be a little more active. I finally figured out how to post into multiple social media at once. So I'm starting to get I'm perking out in the Instagram world.
Oh, good.
Although on Facebook is kind of my home for new releases, but Instagram is becoming better for me too. Great. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I said, people will be able to click on those links in the description below.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, look forward to seeing what else you do with this photography business of yours.
I keep learning more and more, and I'm becoming expert on Fireflies.
Beautiful.
Things that I'm doing for BBC right now is like I'm like trying to make females lay eggs and like discover things like that. So I'm becoming a scientist when it comes to fireflies too.
That's really phenomenal. I mean, you're doing your thing and it works. It's great.
Yeah, thanks, Luke.
Yeah. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Absolutely. We'll do it again sometime.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. All right.
That was good.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Take care. Bye. Bye.
Dude, that was great.
You like it?